Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. On a sunny June afternoon, William and his wife Sophia were busy making final preparations for their upcoming 25th wedding anniversary party. Their beach house was decorated like a dream, with colorful balloons and flowers dotting every corner, and the smell of champagne and sea air filling the air. William is a successful architectural designer who, with Sophia, runs a little-known design practice. Over the years, they have worked together to create countless stunning buildings that are as seemingly indestructible as their carefully crafted marriage. However, fate is secretly brewing a storm that is about to upend their peaceful lives. Guests arrived shortly after the party started. William's father was seated in a wheelchair at the main table with a proud smile on his face. Sophia's parents and their three children, Emma, Lucas, and Olivia, also arrived early to help greet guests. The local mayor was there in person with a special gift, a plaque inscribed, "June 14th is William and Sophia Day." Among the more than 200 guests present were their friends, neighbors, colleagues, and even some fans who had never met them before, all of whom had come to get a glimpse of this model couple. As night falls, William and Sophia stand on a makeshift stage, ready to renew their vows of love. William gazed deep into Sophia's eyes as if everything around him had disappeared. All he sees is Sophia, the woman who has been with him for a quarter of a century of his life, the one who made his life complete. However, just at this seemingly perfect moment, a twinge of unease floods William's heart. He noticed Sophia's smile seemed a little forced, a flicker of guilt in her eyes. But he quickly put the feeling behind him, thinking that maybe he was just being overly sensitive. A few days after the party, William drove his pickup truck to return the rented tables, chairs, and other party supplies to the rental company. Just as he turned the corner into the parking lot, he accidentally grazed a brand new Lexus sedan. The officer who handles the minor accident happens to be Lucas' childhood friend Greg. Greg had now grown into a handsome, upright young man, and his police uniform added a touch of majesty. William looked at Greg, who had once been a young boy, in front of him. During the conversation, Greg inadvertently slipped up and mentioned that Sophia had almost gotten a ticket for running a red light a while back. William was a little confused for a moment because Sophia had never mentioned this to him. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned that." Greg looked a little embarrassed as he realized he had said the wrong thing. William tried to lighten the mood while trying to figure out what was going on. "It's okay, Greg. Sophia won't tell me about her ticket sometimes. She thinks I'll get mad. Actually, I won't, but I let her think I will so I can keep a bit of an edge." He joked. "Tell me, what rule did she break? I can tease her a little about that." Greg hesitated but said, "Well, it was 2 weeks ago Saturday, May 31st. Your wife drove out of the Holiday Inn parking lot without stopping in front of the parking line. She was driving so fast that I had to stop her to warn her. I should have given her a ticket, but considering there was no danger posed, I just gave a verbal warning." A sudden uneasiness welled up in William as he listened. He remembers well that on May 31st, he was helping with chores at his father's house and was away from home for the entire day. And Sophia told him that she was at home that day quietly reading a book. Why was she at the Holiday Inn? Why did you lie to him? With his mind full of questions, William returned home. He tried to convince himself that maybe it was just Greg misremembering the date. Maybe there was some rational explanation. But no matter what he thought, that uneasy feeling lingered. Just as William is still reeling from this, he gets a call from his sister. His father falls in the kitchen, and although he is not injured, the incident makes William realize that his father may need more care. He decides to take Lucas and Olivia with him to visit his father for the weekend, and in the process tries again to convince him to move to a smaller, safer place. On Saturday morning, William and the children set out for their father's house. Sophia said she wanted to enjoy a quiet weekend and continue reading her book. Along the way, William chatted with the children in a relaxed atmosphere. However, as they passed the Holiday Inn, William suddenly remembers what Greg mentioned. Ghostly, William turned into the parking lot of the Holiday Inn. Just as he was about to leave, A familiar silver Toyota Kahari came into view. It was Sophia's car. William's heart raced as he stopped the car and double-checked it to make sure it was undoubtedly Sophia's car. William pulled out his cell phone and dialed home. No answer. He called Sophia's cell phone again, and this time it connected. "Honey, what's wrong?" Sophia's voice sounded brisk. William tried to suppress his inner anger and uneasiness and said in a relaxed manner, "It's nothing. I was buying something for my father, and I called you on the way. No one answered the home phone, so I called your cell phone." "Where are you?" "I'm at the mall." Sophia answered quickly. "I wanted to get out and do some shopping after my reading. Do you mind?" William's heart sank. She's lying, and so gently. "No, I don't mind. Just don't blow the kids' college fund," he said with forced anger. "When are you coming home?" "About 6 o'clock. Want me to make dinner?" Sophia asked. "No, I'll probably spend the night at my father's house. I'll be in touch." William replied coldly. After hanging up, William sat in his car, at a loss for words. Should he just go to the hotel and question Sophia? Or should we pretend we don't know anything and wait for her to come forward? Just as he was hesitating, his cell phone rang again. "It's Greg calling." "Mr. William," Greg's voice sounded serious, "I'm sorry to bother you, but there's something I think you should know. Just now the hotel called the police to report an accident. A lady had been injured while trying to get through a glass door. I arrived at the scene and found that the lady was your wife, Sophia. She had a cut on her forehead and appeared to be in a lot of pain. The ambulance has taken her to the hospital." William felt a wave of vertigo. He wanted to rush to the hospital immediately, but Greg's next words froze him in place. "One more thing," Greg hesitated. "Your wife is not alone. She was with a man. The man left before the ambulance arrived. I have information and statements from him, but I can't share them right now. You can request a release of information at the police station tomorrow." "I'm really sorry, Mr. Williams." William froze in place, feeling like the whole world was falling apart. Everything he had once believed in, the family and business they had built together, the 25 years of marriage, all the good memories, had become dubious and illusory at the moment. He drove mechanically back to his father's house and saw Lucas and Olivia waiting anxiously at the door. Trying to keep his emotions in check, William briefly told them about his mother's hospitalization and ducked into the guest room. The moment the door to the room closed, William finally broke down. He dropped to his bed, tears falling like rain. He had never been so out of sorts in front of his children, but at this moment, he could no longer stay strong. 25 years of trust and love shattered in an instant, leaving behind nothing but betrayal and pain. Just as William was drowning his sorrows, the door to the room was gently pushed open. His father slowly pushed his wheelchair in and sat next to William. "Son," the old man said softly, "I know you are in pain, but let me tell you a story I have never told anyone." William looked up at his father with teary eyes. The old man took a deep breath and began to tell. "Not long after you were born, I made a big mistake at work. Your mother wanted an expensive red dress, but I couldn't afford it, so I stole a tool and sold it for money. Eventually I was caught, and although I paid for the damage, I was fired and put on probation for a year." William looked at his father in surprise. He had never heard of this. "It was the most difficult period of my life," the old man continued. "But what pained me most was your mother's reaction. She was very disappointed and cold to me for a long time. Our marriage was in crisis. But one day," said the old man with a flicker of tenderness in his eyes, "your mother came home and told me that she might have found a job for me where she worked. The next morning, she suggested I go for an interview. Then she hugged me and looked me in the eye and said she forgave me." William listened quietly, feeling the power in his father's words. "Son, your mother forgave me for my mistake that almost destroyed our marriage. She put aside her pride and opened her heart to me again. From that day until she left this earth, I never did anything to disappoint her again. Her love made me a better person." The old man took William's hand and said fondly, "William, I don't know what's going on right now, but it sounds like you may be going through something similar. Maybe you need to forgive others. Maybe you need to be forgiven. But either way, I'm sure deep down you know what to do. I just pray that everything will be okay." William felt the warmth and strength of his father's words. Though still filled with pain and confusion, he realizes that he will next be faced with an important choice, one that concerns not only himself, but the future of his entire family. William looked up at the ceiling of the guest room in his father's house, his thoughts like churning waves. Ever since the night Greg called with the news that Sophia had been injured at the hotel, he's felt trapped in a never-ending nightmare. He refuses to visit Sophia in the hospital or answer any of her phone calls. He just mechanically took a leave of absence from the company and then locked himself in this small space, trying to escape the cruelty of reality. Outside the window, the early summer sun was still warm and bright, but William couldn't feel the slightest bit of temperature. His heart was like a huge black hole, devouring all emotion and reason. He thought back over and over again to the past, trying to pinpoint the moment when their marriage cracked, but it all seemed so unreal and far away. There was a soft knock at the door. "Dad, are you okay?" It was Olivia's gentle voice. William didn't answer. He knew his daughter was worried about him, but he didn't have the strength to comfort anyone right now, not even himself. "Dad, Mom got out of the hospital today." There was a hint of hesitation in Olivia's voice. "She said she wanted to come see you. Would you like to see her?" William closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He knew this moment would come eventually, but he didn't think it would be this soon. He's not ready to face Sophia, her betrayal, and their fractured marriage. "Tell her I don't want to see her right now," William finally said, his voice husky and tired. Olivia was silent for a moment, then whispered, "Okay, Dad. If you need anything, I'll be right outside." William felt a pang of guilt as he listened to Olivia's footsteps leaving. He knows that his behavior has put the kids in the middle, and it's hard to do, but he really can't face Sophia right now. Time passes and William continues to lock himself in his room. His father and children took turns to persuade him, but he politely refused. He begins to think about his future and what life would be like without Sophia. Just when William thinks he's finally made up his mind to end the marriage, Sophia shows up. It was a dreary afternoon with dark clouds, as if it would rain heavily at any moment. William sits in a deck chair in the backyard of his father's house and stares off into the distance at the woods. Suddenly, he heard familiar footsteps from behind him. "William!" Sophia's voice sounded softly behind him. William didn't turn around, but he could feel Sophia standing a few steps away from him. His heart raced and his palms began to sweat. Even without looking, he could picture Sophia at the moment, probably still bruised, pale, eyes red and swollen. "May I sit down?" Sophia asked carefully. William didn't answer, but he didn't refuse either. Sophia slowly walked over to the chair next to him and sat down. There was a suffocating tension in the air. "William, I came here to apologize." Sophia's voice trembled with deep pain and remorse. "I know the words 'I'm sorry' aren't nearly enough, but it's the only thing I can say to begin with." William finally turned his head to Sophia. She looked worse than he'd ever imagined. The cut on his forehead had scabbed over, but the bruise around it was still evident. She had deep dark circles under her eyes, and her whole body looked haggard. Sophia took a deep breath and continued, "I know my behavior has caused you unimaginable pain. I betrayed your trust and our marriage vows. I have no excuses to excuse myself. I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe it's because I feel lonely. Maybe it's because I want some excitement. But none of that is a reason. None of that excuses me from hurting you." William felt a surge of anger come over him. Loneliness? Irritation? "Sophia, we've been married for 25 years. We've been through so much together, built our careers, raised 3 children. Isn't all that enough for you?" Sophia's tears began to flow uncontrollably. "You're right, William. Everything we have is so precious. I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe it's a midlife crisis. Maybe I'm just being selfish. But I promise, it was just a moment of weakness. I never stopped loving you." William sneered. "Love me? If you really love me, how could you do such a thing? Do you know how much pain I am in? Do you know how I've been living these days? Every minute, every second, I was thinking about the image of you and that man together. I feel sick. I feel betrayed. I feel like our whole marriage was a lie." Sophia sobbed, her body trembling slightly from the intensity of her emotions. William, please believe me, our marriage is not a lie. My love for you has never changed in these 25 years. I made a terrible mistake, but that doesn't erase everything we've been through together. I would do anything to make up for my mistake. If you need time, I can move out. If you need me to see a therapist, I'll go right away. I'll spend the rest of my life rebuilding your trust in me if you just give me a chance. William closed his eyes and sighed deeply. He remembered the stories his father had told him, and the words he had said, maybe you need to forgive others, maybe you need to be forgiven. But at the moment, he realized he couldn't. Sophia, William spoke slowly, pain and determination in his voice. I don't know if I can ever forgive you. You betrayed my trust and destroyed everything we've built over the years. I don't think our marriage can continue. Sophia's face turned pale instantly. William, please think again. We can get over this together. We can go to marriage counseling, and I'll try to rebuild your trust. Please don't just give up on our marriage. William stood up and turned his back on Sophia. I need time, Sophia. Right now, I just want to be alone. Please leave. Just then, a muffled thunder rang out in the sky, followed by heavy rain pouring down. Sophia slowly stood up, tears and rain mixing together and blurring her vision. I understand, William. I will give you the time and space you need. But remember, no matter what happens, I love you. I will always be here, waiting for your decision. William didn't turn around. He listened to Sophia's fading footsteps and felt a pang of loneliness and emptiness he had never felt before. Over the next few days, William began to think seriously about their future. He went back to work and tried to keep himself busy. But every time he sees the picture of him and Sophia on his desk, the pain and sense of betrayal come back to him. Emma, Lucas, and Olivia take turns visiting him, trying to convince him to give his mother a chance. But William remained silent, knowing that this decision could only be made by himself. One evening, William sat alone in his study, looking through their wedding album. Each photo documents the happy times they had. His fingers brushed over Sophia's bright young smile, and a pang of sadness flooded his heart. Just then, his cell phone rang. It was a text from Sophia. William, I know you still need time, but I want you to know that I will respect whatever decision you make. I just want you to be happy. And if you're willing to give us a chance someday, I'll spend the rest of my life making up for my mistakes. Good night. William stared at the screen of his cell phone for a long time, unable to take his eyes off it. He suddenly realizes that despite Sophia's mistakes, she is still the one who knows him and cares about him. However, the shadow of betrayal was too heavy for him to just forgive so easily. William called Sophia the next morning. We need to talk, he said, with a hint of determination in his voice. They met at their favorite cafe. This is where they had their first date and where William proposed to Sophia. When William walked into the cafe, he saw that Sophia was already sitting in the same corner where they always sat. Sophia sees William with a flicker of hope and fear in her eyes. William sat down across from her, and the two were silent for a while. Finally, William spoke up, Sophia, I've been thinking about our relationship for the past few weeks. I can't forgive you for your betrayal. I think we should take some time apart. I need to be alone and to find myself again. Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes, and she wanted to reach out and touch William's hand, but eventually restrained herself. William, I understand how you feel. I know that my behavior has caused you great hurt, but please give me a chance to prove that I can change. William shook his head. No, Sophia. Not now. Maybe later, but not now. I need time to heal my wounds. Sophia lowers her head, tears dripping onto the tabletop. I understand, William. I will respect your decision. But remember, whenever you're willing to give us a chance, I'll be here for you. William stood up and gave Sophia one last look. He saw the remorse and love in her eyes, but also the hurt and distrust in his own heart. He turned and left the cafe, leaving Sophia sitting alone, her shoulders shaking from silent sobs. Walking out of the cafe, William took a deep breath. He knew there was a long, hard road ahead, but at the moment, he felt a twinge of relief. Maybe one day he'll be able to forgive Sophia, maybe never. But now, he needs to face this hurt alone and find himself again. The sunlight from the rain poured through the clouds and William looked up at the sky. He knew it was going to be a hard and long process, no matter what the future held. But he's determined to face it, even if it means going it alone. The air smelled of earth after the rain, and William sat on the swing in the backyard of his father's house, holding a letter in his hand. It's from Sophia on the third day after they separated, and her familiar handwriting on the envelope makes William's heart clench violently. He had been staring at the letter for a full hour, but never had the courage to open it. Finally, William took a deep breath and slowly opened the envelope. Sophia's beautiful handwriting jumps off the page. Dear William, I know I'm in no position to call you that again, but allow me to do so one last time. I sit here and write this letter over and over again without knowing how to express the remorse and apologies I feel inside. First, I would like to explain my behavior, although I know that no explanation can make up for the damage I have done to you, to our family. It all started last winter. At that time, you were busy with the company's big project and often worked late into the night. I understand how hard it is for you, but at the same time, I feel more alone than ever. The children have grown up and have lives of their own, and the house suddenly becomes empty. I began to question my own worth and whether our marriage was still as passionate as it once was. It was then that I met John at a charity dinner. He is a good listener and always makes me feel valued. At first, we only chatted occasionally, but gradually I found myself looking forward to every conversation with him. I told myself that it was just a normal friendship and there was nothing wrong with it. However, things got out of control without realizing it. That day at the hotel, I was just going to talk to John and tell him that we couldn't go on like this. But when I saw the look in his eyes and heard him say he loved me, I made an unforgivable mistake. I betrayed you. I betrayed our marriage vows. William, I know these words may cause you more pain, but I think you have a right to know the truth. I don't want to excuse myself. My behavior was inexcusable. I failed you. I failed everything we built together. If I could do it all over again, I'd rather talk to you directly about my feelings rather than seek comfort from outsiders. I should remember that you've always been the one who knows me best and supports me the most. We've been through so much hand in hand, and I'm backing away from this test. I am deeply ashamed of my weakness and stupidity. I've hurt the people I love most in this world and destroyed the things I hold most dear. If I could give my life in exchange for your forgiveness, I would do so without hesitation. But I know that forgiveness is not that easy. I just want you to know that I will always love you no matter what the outcome. If you decide to end our marriage, I will respect your choice. But if one day you're willing to give me a chance to start over, I'll spend the rest of my life making up for my mistakes. Love you always. Sophia. William put down the letter and felt a twinge of heaven. He closed his eyes and tried to calm the emotions churning inside him. Sophia's explanation brings back memories they share, those once sweet times that seem so bitter at the moment. He remembered that last winter he had indeed been so busy that he had often neglected Sophia's feelings. But does that justify her betrayal? William felt a surge of anger and disappointment. After all the years they've been married and all the storms they've been through, why can't Sophia just talk to him? William stood up and began pacing back and forth in the backyard. He thought back to their first date, their wedding, the moment the children were born. Every image was so beautiful, but now it's tainted by Sophia's betrayal. He felt a deep pang of loss and sadness. He had thought their love could conquer all, but now it seemed so fragile. William doesn't know if he can still believe in love or trust anyone. Just then, William's cell phone rang. It's his lawyer David calling. William, I've prepared the divorce papers. When is it convenient for you to come over and sign them? David's voice came from the other end of the phone. William froze for a moment, suddenly realizing it had come to this. I need to think again, he heard himself say. After hanging up the phone, William felt a wave of loneliness he'd never felt before. He sat back on the swing and picked up Sophia's letter again. Though his reason told him he should end the marriage, his heart wavered. William began to reminisce about the 25 years they had spent together. He thought of Sophia's support when his career was at a low point, her tenderness when she cared for him when he was sick, and the encouragement she gave him at every important moment. The memories came flooding back like a tidal wave, leaving William feeling both warm and agonized. He had to admit that despite Sophia's mistakes, She was still the one who knew and cared for him the most. Can the family they've built together, everything they've been through together, really end like this? William is in deep conflict. On the one hand, he can't forgive Sophia for her betrayal. On the other, he's reluctant to give up on the quarter-century-long relationship. He began to question whether his earlier decision had been too hasty. Meanwhile, in one of the city's apartments, Sophia is sitting in front of the window, looking out at the busy street scene. Since moving out, she has spent every day in torment. She didn't know if William had gotten her letter or how he would react after reading it. Sophia recalled how she felt when she wrote the letter. It was a long night as she wrote over and over again, tears blurring her vision. She knew her explanation might cause William more pain, but she felt he had a right to know the truth. Now, every second of waiting for William to respond is torture. Sophia begins to reflect on her life. She used to think she was a strong woman, but now she seemed so weak and stupid. Why would she destroy years of built-up happiness with a moment of weakness? Sophia picks up the picture frame that sits on the coffee table, taken during their family vacation at the beach last summer. In the photo, William has his arm around her shoulders, and they both have happy smiles on their faces. Sophia's fingers gently brushed over William's face and tears came to her eyes again. How she wished she could turn back time to that sunny summer day. If she could do it all over again, she would have cherished the happiness in front of her instead of foolishly pursuing those vain thrills. Sophia stands up and walks over to the desk. She pulls out a thick photo album of her and William's love history. From the movie ticket stubs from their first date, to their marriage certificate, to their children's birth certificates, every page is a record of their shared memories. Looking over the precious mementos, Sophia felt a strong pang of remorse and self-loathing. How could she give up the feelings she'd built up over the years for a moment of weakness? How could she live up to William's trust and love for her? Just then, Sophia's cell phone rang. "It's Emma. Mom, are you okay?" Emma's voice was filled with worry. Sophia tried to keep her emotions in check. "I'm fine, honey. Don't worry about me. Mom, I just got off the phone with Dad. He looked like he was in a lot of pain." Emma hesitated and continued, "I know it's none of my business, but can't you really give each other another chance?" Sophia felt a pang of heartache. "Emma, your father is hurting right now. I made a big mistake and I can't expect him to forgive me easily." There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment. Then Emma said, "I understand, Mom. I just want our family to be reunited." After hanging up, Sophia felt a deep pang of guilt. She's not only hurting William, she's affecting the kids. She began to think about what it would do to the kids if she did get divorced. What would they think of marriage and love? Sophia walked out onto the balcony and took a deep breath. She knew she had made an unforgivable mistake, but she didn't want to just give up. Even if William decides to get a divorce, she will have to work hard to make amends and regain her children's respect. Meanwhile, William is sitting in his study with the divorce papers spread out in front of him. His pen hung above the signature bar, but he was slow to drop it. He remembers the words of Sophia's letter. "If I could give my life in exchange for your forgiveness, I would not hesitate to do so." William knows that Sophia is genuinely repentant, but he wonders if it will be enough. He began to think about what his life would be like if he did get divorced. Will he find a new partner? Or will you end up alone? What will the kids think of his decision? William stood up and walked over to the window. Outside, night had fallen and the lights of the city began to twinkle. He thought back to his and Sophia's first date, when they strolled down the lighted streets, thinking of a bright future. At that time, they could never have imagined that they would end up like they are today. Suddenly, William's cell phone vibrated. It was a text message from Sophia. "William, I know you probably don't want to see me right now, but if you can, I'd like to ask you to give us a chance. Not to save our marriage, but for our children. Maybe we could see a marriage counselor together? Forgive me if you find this idea too presumptuous. In any case, I will respect your decision." William stared at the screen of his cell phone, feeling a pang of confusion. He didn't know how to respond. Part of him wants to try, wants to give their marriage one last chance. The other part of him is held back by fear and distrust. He sat back in his chair and picked up the divorce papers again. He knew that the next decision would change his life. William closed his eyes and sighed deeply. Whatever choice he makes, it will be a tough road. It was then that his eyes fell on a photograph on his desk. It was taken on his and Sophia's 25th wedding anniversary. In the photo, they're smiling at each other with love in their eyes. William suddenly realizes that despite Sophia's mistakes, the 25-year relationship was real. He picked up his phone, took a deep breath, and began to respond to Sophia's text. "Okay, we can try marriage counseling, but I can't promise anything." After sending the text message, William felt a wave of relief. He knows that doesn't mean he's forgiven Sophia or that their marriage will necessarily continue. But at least, he was willing to try to understand, to communicate. William stood up and walked over to the window. Outside, a new day is about to begin, and the morning light is faintly glowing. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew that no matter what the outcome, he would grow and become stronger. Tears came to Sophia's eyes again as she received William's reply. This time, it was tears of hope. She knew there was still a long way to go, but at least they had a glimmer of hope. Sophia stands up and walks out onto the balcony. She took a deep breath of the morning air, feeling the hope that a new day brought. Regardless of what the future holds, she's determined to try to fix the mistakes she's made and rebuild William's trust in her. Over the next few days, William and Sophia spent time preparing for their upcoming marriage counseling. They each organized their thoughts and feelings, trying to get to the root of the problem. William sits in his study, reflecting on the last few years of his life. He realized that perhaps he was responsible. He's so focused on his work that he's ignoring Sophia's needs. But does that really justify her betrayal? He still felt angry and hurt, but at the same time began to reflect on his role in the marriage. Meanwhile, Sophia is organizing her closet. She found a dress that William had given her years ago, one of her favorite gifts. Sophia caressed the soft fabric, remembering when William had given her the dress. At the time, they had just been through a serious argument and William bought the dress as a reconciliation gift. Sophia couldn't help but smile at how young and exuberant they had been, but also how deeply they loved each other. Finally, the day of counseling arrived. William and Sophia meet outside the counselor's office, both looking a little awkward and nervous. "Are you okay?" Sophia asked softly, concern and apology in her eyes. William nodded. "It's okay. How about you?" I'm nervous," Sophia said honestly, "but I appreciate you wanting to come." They walked into the counseling room and were warmly welcomed by Counselor Dr. Anderson. She was a woman in her 50s with gentle, wise eyes. "William, Sophia, welcome," Dr. Anderson said with a smile. "Our goal today is to communicate openly and honestly. I want you to be able to listen to each other and express your feelings instead of blaming each other. Are you ready?" William and Sophia nodded, and then sat down on the couch in the counseling room, separated by some distance. "So, who wants to go first?" Dr. Anderson asked. William took a deep breath. "I guess I'll do it." He turned to Sophia with pain in his eyes. "Sophia, I don't understand. Why? We've been together for 25 years, and I thought we'd built an unbreakable trust. And yet you betrayed me. I feel so hurt, so angry. I don't know if I can trust you or anyone else." Tears immediately welled up in Sophia's eyes. "William, I'm so sorry. I know saying I'm sorry is not nearly enough. I made a terrible mistake. I betrayed your trust and our marriage vows. I don't have any excuses. I feel alone. I feel neglected. But it's not your fault that I was too weak to communicate my feelings directly to you." Dr. Anderson nodded. "Sophia, can you be specific about why you feel alone and neglected?" Sophia wiped her tears. "Last winter, William was working on a big project. I understand that his work is important, but he often worked late into the night and we hardly had time to be together. The kids were all grown up and the house suddenly became very quiet. I began to doubt my own worth and wondered if our marriage was still as passionate as it used to be." William frowned. "But why don't you talk to me? We've always been able to talk to each other." I didn't want to intrude on your work." Sophia lowered her head. "I felt selfish. You were working hard for our future and I was complaining about being alone." Dr. Anderson turns to William. "William, how did you feel when you heard Sophia's explanation?" William was silent for a moment, then said, "I feel angry, but guilty at the same time. I didn't pay attention to Sophia's feelings, and I was too focused on my work." But his voice became shaky. "That doesn't justify betrayal. We've been through so much hardship. Why did you choose betrayal over communication this time?" Sophia closed her eyes in pain. "I know, William. I made an unforgivable mistake. I was too weak, too stupid. I put myself in a dangerous situation, and by the time I realized it, it was too late." Dr. Anderson nods. "Thank you for your candor. I can see that you are both trying to understand each other, and that is a good start." "William, you mentioned the issue of trust. Can you be specific about what it means to you to rebuild trust?" William thought for a moment. "I don't know. I think once trust is broken, it's hard to rebuild. But if I'm going to try, I think I need Sophia to be completely honest and transparent. I need to know everything about her. I need her to come forward and tell me what she's thinking and feeling. I also need time and to see her in action, not just promises." Sophia nods eagerly. "I'll do anything to rebuild your trust, William. I'll be completely open with you and tell you everything about me. I will prove to you that you are the most important person in my life." Dr. Anderson smiles and says, "That's a great start. Rebuilding trust is a long process that takes effort and patience on both sides. Over the next few counseling sessions, we will explore your feelings in more depth and help you develop better communication." After leaving the counseling room, William and Sophia stood in the parking lot, neither knowing what to say. Finally, William broke the silence. "I need more time, Sophia, but I'm willing to try." Sophia's eyes sparkled with hope. "Thank you, William. I won't let you down." As he watched Sophia drive away, William felt conflicting emotions inside. He still felt hurt and angry, but at the same time he felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, by working together, they can still save the marriage. But William knew there was a long road ahead. He needs to learn to trust again, and Sophia needs to prove her loyalty with her actions. It's going to be a tough process, but at least they took the first step. William's thoughts drifted to the future as he drove home. He didn't know if they would be successful in saving the marriage, but he knew that no matter what the outcome, the experience would grow him and make him understand himself and each other better. That night, William lay in bed, unable to sleep for a long time. He thought back over every detail of today's counseling, pondering everything Sophia had said. He realizes that despite Sophia's mistakes, she's still the woman he spent 25 years with, the mother of his children. He picked up his phone, hesitated, then sent Sophia a text. "Today's counseling was helpful. Good night." Almost instantly, Sophia replied, "I found it helpful too. Thank you for being willing to try it. Good night, William." William looked at the simple text message and felt a warmth well up in his heart. Perhaps there is hope for them yet. Maybe love and marriage really can stand up to anything. But he knew that this was just the beginning of a long journey. Many challenges awaited them in the future, but at least they decided to face them together. William closed his eyes and sank into sleep with a glimmer of hope. Tomorrow, it will be a new day, a new beginning. Autumn creeps in, and golden leaves cover the streets where William and Sophia once lived together. William stood at the window of his study, looking out and lamenting the passage of time. Almost 6 months have passed since that marriage counseling. In those 6 months, William's life has been turned upside down. He quit his old job and decided to revive his youthful dream of writing. Every morning, he would sit for hours in his small study at home, pouring his inner thoughts onto the keyboard. At first, writing was a form of escapism, but gradually it became William's cure. One day, William flipped through his journal from years ago and discovered a forgotten dream: to write a book about architecture and life. The idea suddenly excited him. He began to walk around the city, observing each building and thinking about their connection to people's lives. Slowly, the outlines of a story formed in his mind. Meanwhile, Sophia is trying to rebuild her life. She attended a counseling training program in hopes of helping those who had similar experiences to hers. After each training, she sends William a newsletter to share her insights. At first, William rarely replied, but over time he found himself looking forward to the messages. Emma, Lucas, and Olivia played a big part in this time. They take turns staying with their parents in an effort to repair the fractured family. Once, at Lucas' birthday party, William and Sophia had to show up at the same time. Despite the somewhat awkward atmosphere, both felt a twinge of relief at the sight of the children's smiles. Near the end of the fall, William finished the first draft of his book. He hesitated for a long time, but finally decided to send the manuscript to Sophia to read. After all, she had been his best reader and critic. Sophia's heart raced when she received the manuscript. She opened the file carefully, afraid of touching something. Tears flowed involuntarily as she read about a bridge described in the book. That bridge is where William proposed to her. After reading the entire book, Sophia sends William a long message. "William, your book is wonderfully written. It was as if I could see your soul beating between the lines. The buildings, the stories, all the memories we share. As I read, I suddenly realized that our marriage is like a magnificent building. We spent so many years carefully designing and building it with care, only to have it almost destroyed overnight. But, like you said in your book, even in ruins, it can be rebuilt. It may not be exactly the same as it was, but it may be stronger." William looked at his cell phone screen for a long time, unable to take his eyes off it. A ripple went through his heart, a long-lost touch. The next day, William finds the courage to invite Sophia to dinner. Not at their usual restaurant, but at a new bistro. This choice symbolizes a new beginning. William's heart skipped a beat when Sophia walked into the tavern. She was wearing a simple white dress with her hair pulled back casually behind her head. In that moment, William felt like he was seeing the Sophia from their first date, all those years ago. "You look beautiful," William said softly. Sophia gives a coy smile. "Thanks. Your book. It's really great." They started talking about William's book, about Sophia's training program, and about how the kids were doing. The conversation flowed naturally, just as it had years ago when they were lovers. After dinner, they decided to take a walk along the river. The night was getting darker and the stars dotted the sky. William and Sophia walked side by side, the distance between them both intimate and restrained. "You know," William snapped, "I've been thinking about something for the past 6 months." "What's the problem?" Sophia asked softly. "Our future." William stopped and turned to face Sophia. "I'm not sure we can ever go back to the way things were. So much has changed. We've all changed." "But..." Sophia held her breath, waiting for William's next words. "But..." William took a deep breath. "I think we can create a new future. Not rebuild the old relationship, but a new, stronger one. If you're willing." Sophia's eyes glistened with tears. I do, William. In these 6 months, I have regretted every day, and every day I have thought about how to make up for my mistakes. I know we can't go back to the past, but I hope we can face the future hand in hand." William reaches out and gently wipes the tears from Sophia's face. It was the first time in 6 months that they had been in such close contact. "We've got a long way to go," William said softly, "and I'm not sure how it'll end up, but I'm willing to try." Sophia nodded and gave a tearful smile. They continued their walk along the river, no one speaking, but there was a serenity in the air. The night breeze is light and brings with it the scent of a new season. William knows that there is a long, hard road ahead. Trust needs to be rebuilt and wounds need to be healed. But right now, on this quiet night, by this quiet river, he felt hope. Perhaps their story is not over yet. Perhaps this is just a new beginning. As they walked to the bridge that had witnessed their love, William stopped in his tracks. He looked at Sophia and saw the anticipation and apprehension in her eyes. "Sophia," William said softly, "let's start over from here, okay?" Sophia nodded, tears and hope shining in her eyes. They stood on the bridge and looked out over the sparkling river. The wounds of the past flow like a river, but the possibilities of the future are as vibrant and hopeful as the river running under the bridge. William and Sophia know that their story is far from over. Whatever the future holds, they will face it hand in hand, just as they promised on this bridge all those years ago. A shooting star crossed the night sky. William and Sophia made simultaneous wishes. Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe it's fate that their desires are so similar. For the sake of each other, for the sake of their families, and for the sake of that unfulfilled dream, they are willing to join hands again and write a new chapter of their lives together. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.